everyone. Musta? Gandang umaga sa lahat. Okay. Sisimula tayo ng ating video lesson. Tatlong sections lang naman to eh. Tapos, ang susunod is, yung susunod na topic sa obligations and contract. Gagawin ko rin to doon sa isa pang subject. Halos lahat ng mga subjects ko. Sabi ng asawa ko mag-PowerPoint daw. Hindi kasi pwede kasing i-upload ang PowerPoint sa YouTube. Video lamang. Kailangan pa daw gumawa ng slide. Anyway. Madali lang naman to eh. So, practically lahat naman may textbook. So, yan. Sisimula tayo sa joint solidary obligation. Tatapusin natin sa penal obligation or obligations with a penal clause, no? Remember, ang concept ng joint and solidary obligation is that ang joint and solidary obligations ay mga kinds of obligations based upon individuals who are supposed to perform the obligation or who are actually bound by the obligation, no? Yun. Basically, ang pinaka-concept is that all obligations are individual, no? Except tong mga to. Naging collective sila. Our collective obligation usually falls under two: joint obligation at yung solidary obligation. Okay? So, pag joint obligation, yun yung palaging yan yung kung tawagin namin, yan yung parang default na presumption. Okay? Pag collective ang isang obligation, palaging joint yan. Bibihira yan i-consider na isang solidary obligation. Pero lang kung one of the following. Number one, solidary siya dahil sinasabi ng batas. Pangalawa, solidary siya dahil yun ay pinag-usapan ng mga parties, yung tinatawag namin conventional. Tapos, pangatlo, solidary siya dahil sa nature ng mismong obligation or ng object, no? Usually. Okay, pwede maging solidary ng isang obligation. Pero, absent those three reasons why an obligation ought to become solidary, hindi pwede maging solidary ang isang collective obligation. Lagi lamang siyang joint, no? Now, ang solidarity ay maraming uri, no? Meron tayong tinatawag na active solidarity, merong passive solidarity, at yung tinatawag naman natin na mixed solidarity. Okay? Pag sinasabi naming active solidarity, yan yung all the creditors are solidarity or solidarily bound. Ibig sabihin, okay, one creditor cannot initiate an action all by himself. Kailangan pare-parehas lahat sila, no? Nagpo-file ng kaso. Pag hindi nila final yung kaso ng sila lahat inclusive, can be dismissed. Okay? Kasi active solidarity to eh. Now, passive solidarity naman, that means that isang tao lang sa mga debtors ang pwedeng sumagot sa buong obligation. Okay? Now, yun yung passive at active solidarity. Ang mix yung pinaghalo ng dalawa. No? Active at passive solidarity. Now, so, yun ang mga basic concepts regarding solidarity. Okay? Yan. Sige. 1207 and 1208 provides the basic provisions at saka governing principles regarding solidarity and joint obligation. No? Now, ang mga susunod ay mga rules regarding joint obligation. 1209, okay, hanggang 12 12, 22. Yan, 1222. Okay? Ang unique kasi sa solidary obligation is that pag solidary isang obligation, usually, or sa mga para sa mga debtors, yung depensa ng isa, as long as it is not personal, okay, ay pwedeng gamitin ng iba. Okay, as in, pag naapektuhan yung credit or yung obligation in a way na, let's say, yung isang debtor, okay, ay hindi makakapagbayad kasi siya, what do you call this? Declaration of civil interdiction. Okay. You can actually use the civil interdiction as a defense para hindi ka sumagot doon sa parting yun ng obligation na yun. Okay? So, ganun. Now, can it actually affect yung buong obligation itself? Yes. In part lamang, no? Pero hindi yung buo. The obligation itself can still continue, can still subsist. In fact, kahit iba't iba yung terms ng mga debtors doon sa obligation, as long as the obligation is solidary, okay, they can still be made liable solidarily. Okay ba? Now, ang katanungan dito is, ang guarantor ba ay solidarily liable with his principal? Siyempre hindi. No? Yan o. 12.11 yung sinasabi ko kaganina. Yung solidarity may exist, although the creditors and the debtors may not be bound by the same manner and by the same periods and conditions. Okay? Okay? Now, ang Article 12.12 ay nagpapatunay lamang ng isang basic concept na kung tawagan namin ay mutual agency. Ang mutual agency means that sa mga solidary creditors, one creditor represents the others, no? So, pagdating doon sa sa debt, sa obligation, okay, you have actually the power to bind all the others, no? Like for example, yung isa, ayaw niya nang singilin doon sa isa yung kanyang obligation, no? For whatever reason, okay? Valid yung extinguishment ng obligation na yun, no? Yung remission or condonation for that matter. But however, dahil sa mutual agency, kinakailangan maging what? Kailangan merong proper accounting, no? In short, siya pa rin yung sisingilin para dun sa obligation na niremis niya. Okay? Or pwede yun yung kanyang share ang maapektuhan ng revision. Okay? Now, kasi ganito yun guys kahit solidary yan, okay, nako-convert pa rin siya into a joint obligation. Paano nangyayari yun? Pag na-extinguish na yung obligation itself, okay, then it will convert itself, transform itself into a what? Into a joint obligation or an individual obligation. Okay, depende sa circumstances. Now, again, yan, 12.13 and 12.14. Ito yung epekto ng mutual representation or mutual agency. Okay? Nangyayari lamang 12.16 sa mga instances na kung tawagin natin ay merong passive solidarity. Okay? Absence of which, ang presumption palagi is that ang obligation is joint. Okay? See? Pag merong insolvency, inaabsorb yung share ng isa ng the rest. Pero pwede bang gamitin yung insolvency? No. It's a personal thing kasi. Katulad ng minority. Insolvency is a personal defense. Okay. Importante kasi sa mga obligations is that they are supposed to be extinguished if they remain to be valid and subsisting. Pero once they have prescribed or has become illegal, they're not even or they don't have any force of compulsion na rin to be performed, no? So, ganun. Now, ang prescription is a way by which yung effect ng time maaaring makapag-extinguish ng rights o makapag-create ng rights. Okay. Sabi dito, the remission made by the creditor of the share which affects one of the solidary debtors does not release the latter, which means the solidary from his responsibility towards his co-debtors in case the debt has been totally paid by any one of them before the remission was effective. Why? Kasi practically extinguished na yung obligation nun kasi nabayaran na no? Hala kayong payment ay hindi sufficient. It doesn't matter. There is still payment, no? Nasa yun? Nasa creditor yun kung tatanggapin niya yung payment kahit hindi kompleto. Okay? Now, Article 1220, remission of the whole obligation obtained by one of the solidary does not entitle him to reimbursement. Okay? Kasi obviously wala naman siyang ginastos doon. The whole concept regarding reimbursement is that meron ka dapat you have to at least give something away, like you're supposed to perform or pay or what do you call this, extinguish the obligation other by means of remission. It's innovation. Let's say from being joint from being solidary naging joint. Pwede yun, no? I-extinguish yung old obligation nun kasi magkaiba yung concept ng joint from solidary obligation. Okay, yung concept kasi ng joint at saka solidary obligation, they speak about liability at saka people who can demand the performance of the obligation, no? Okay. Ito ang posibleng mangyari pag na-loss ang isang thing because either the object of the obligation due to a fortuitous event. Okay. Now, if the loss is through the result of one of the debtors, nagiging cause of action for damages. Okay? Yun nga lang, lahat ng mga debtors ay magiging liable for damages. Except yun nga, yung mga ready to perform the obligation, okay, pwede nilang singilin yung taong nakapag-cause ng damage. So that's the whole idea behind this. Now, solidary debtors may, in actions filed by the creditor, avail himself of all the defenses which are derived from the nature of the obligation, those which are personal to him and pertain to his own share. So, okay. Personal obligation as to him, not as to others, no? Okay? With respect to those which personally belong to the others, okay? He may avail himself thereof only as regards to the part of debt for which the later are responsible. So, as to the others daw, pwede daw, pero only as to those which are he is personally responsible. Like for example, an obligation can still be solidary if its terms are actually potestative as to the debtor. Di ba bawal yun? So dapat void siya, di ba? Pero hindi dapat nito maapektuhan yung iba pang obligation itself. Okay? Kasi nga iba yung terms nun eh. As to that particular obligation and as to that particular term, sila lang yung maapektuhan. Pero as regards to other obligations, hindi. They choose or they remain to be so as valid until properly, yun nga, question. Okay? Now, pag void ang isang obligation dahil potestated to, can it be a defense? Yes. No? Para hindi mo siya i-perform at kung meron man cause of action for damages, that's a good reason para i-defeat yung cause of action for damages. Kasi void nga siya. Now, stop muna tayo dito. Kasi 16 minutes na to eh. Upload ka lang to and I'll continue on with divisible and indivisible hanggang obligations with a penal clause. No? Medyo maiksi na lang yun. Okay? Anyway, concepts lang tong pag-uusapan natin. Basically, yung materials ay nandiyan na. All you have to do is just read it. Okay, thank you. We'll continue this later on.